If you have a husband and wife who jointly agree that one party is going to keep the marital home, right? Maybe it's because of the kids or the stability. Um, what process do they have to go through? And not to mention, when you're looking at a divorce, you're going to be looking at the entire picture financially, right?
Correct.
So there may be X amount of dollars in equity, but there might be money in a 401k over here.
Correct.
Or whatever. But let's say they want one spouse or the other to keep the home. What are the only options to be able to do that? Because one thing I experience is, hey, so and so, my spouse is going to keep the home. I'll just sign off on the deed. What problem does that bring up?
So, I mean, anytime that people get divorced, from a legal perspective, the cleanest thing would be to just sell the home. Because anytime that you're not selling the home and somebody's going to stay in the home, you now have to create and draft terms about what that looks like, from who's going to pay this and that, and what happens if the roof needs replaced. So it is common for one spouse to keep the home. They have to refinance the mortgage to get the other spouse off of it at some point in time. There's no law about how fast it has to occur, but if you end up in court, our court system would basically say within 6 months, if you want to keep the home. And not only would you need to refinance the mortgage, but like Paul said, depending on the other assets available, you might have to borrow extra money to buy out that equity interest of the former spouse. So, from a legal perspective, a million things can go wrong with that. If the spouse who wants to stay in the residence loses a job or misses a payment, the other spouse has liabilities. So, refinancing also would involve a new loan, typically at a higher rate than most of the mortgages I've seen that come to me through the divorce court. There is an assumption process, which means in legal terms we call it a novation, which means that the bank simply lets one person off of the mortgage. In the first 15 years of my career, I might have seen one of those. And for whatever reason, in the last 5 or 6 years, you're seeing more assumptions. I have a couple cases right now. The assumption process is long. It requires an actual divorce decree. It requires usually 6 months of steady payments by the spouse in the residence. And obviously a good credit rating, qualifications like you'd get for any other mortgage. Then the bank will simply let the other spouse off. It's a little messy from a legal perspective, but from the owner's perspective, they're keeping a 2.5% interest rate and not having to take a 6.5% interest rate or something. But the problem with the assumption process is there's no way to borrow additional money to pay out an equity interest. So if you're assuming, which is really good, you're getting the benefit of keeping a 2.5% rate, but the other spouse is owed $50,000. Now what do you do? So now you got to go take a whole new loan in the total amount, or if you have enough equity, banks may give you a home equity line of credit at the new rate to pay off former spouse. So now you've got two mortgages essentially. So obviously from my perspective, when clients come in and say, we've agreed we're going to sell the house and split the money, a lot of us divorce lawyers go, fantastic, because it's just the cleanest way to do it. It is.